the great AJ Preller, who joins us right now.
Oh, is he here?
Right,
He's here.
You're right on the air, AJ. We're putting you right on. So, well, I mean, I'm assuming this is AJ Preller. He's calling at the right time. How you doing, man?
Hey guys, how are you?
Good. How was the game this morning?
It was good.
You played well?
It was good.
Good.
Not really, actually.
Good to get out there, but not your best performance.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. That's an accurate assessment for sure.
I can relate.
Nevertheless, you must be feeling fairly decent after how last night played out. We know Fernando Tatis Jr. didn't get any hits, but how good was it to see him back out on the field? And what were just some of your impressions watching his return last night?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously it's great to see Toddy back on the field, and I think the energy he brings. I think just overall, I think to see the two of the team, welcome them back, even pregame, everything there, a nice catch there in right field down the line. We played good defense, and he was a part of that. So. I think just ready to see him, get in a routine, get going, and be back in the lineup every day.
Yeah, he does. He does bring in energy, certainly, and it was awesome. It had to be a bit of a sense of relief to get him back. I know it was for our audience as well, AJ, and really this whole city that's forgiven him and ready to move on and watch him dominate. It's been pretty special. I wanted to ask you though, man. I know in any organization, I can't say the word on the radio, but it runs downhill, right? So I know that there's massive expectations for you for this team. I know there's massive expectations from the fans for this team. They've gotten off to a bit of a slow start. We've seen and heard a lot of panic. What is your assessment of your team so far after 21 games?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, like overall, we have high expectations. We expect to play well, and we like our group and our players and feel like we should play well in all phases. And, I think so far we really haven't, obviously offensively, we haven't, been clicking on all cylinders. And, I think we've had some good starting pitching performances, but I think the consistency of, what this group is capable of, game to game and getting deep in the games, I think that's an area too that that I think we all look at and we expect to play well. And I know it's easy to say, hey, it's a long season, it's only 20 games. I think we all understand that's the way baseball is. There's some ebb and flow, but in general, I think we have feel like we have a team that should play well throughout the season, and I think we all looking to get into a better rhythm and more consistent play and. Play better here as we get through the next 20 games.
When it comes to a guy like Juan Soto or even Manny Machado, who are established stars, and I realize this is a coaching staff issue primarily, but I'm sure you got some thoughts on it. I'm sure there's an instinct. These guys know how to figure it out, fix themselves. You don't want to do too much, yet at the same time, when they're struggling, how much do you want to step in and start, working and pointing things out and make it impossibly worse, when he's going to break out any second now. He's Juan Soto. What's your kind of thinking when stars like that struggle a bit at the plate?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, baseball's a game of adjustments, even for the best guys and the best players. So, I think there's always like little tweaks and things that all the players on our roster and our coaching staff is constantly looking at. Again, I think, we've got a lot of faith in this group and what this group's going to do over the course of the season. But, that doesn't mean that it's always, hey, just stay the course. And, you want to, these guys are, they're constantly making little tweaks and adjustments. I don't think it's any different for Manny or Juan. And I think we're just, I think that, the flip of it is, we haven't played our best baseball and we're sitting here, at 500 and, I think that's at least for us. Like we know when we do start clicking, with the group and everybody starts, doing what they're capable of doing. I think that's exciting because I think we've kind of, held the line here for the first 20 games, and I think when we do get in that rhythm and start playing well, it's exciting for what we can be.
Talking to Padres general manager AJ Preller here on Ben and Woods this morning. Always appreciate the time, AJ. I know the Campusano injury was a bummer because he was starting to come around a little bit. Number one, how's he feeling? And then what is kind of your plan moving forward? We sat down with Austin at spring training. We were all really expecting a big year for him. He played well. Then he got hit with the fastball in the face, and that's certainly awful. But I know he hasn't played as well as he expects to so far. What is kind of the plan moving forward in the catching position?
Yeah, I think again, like Campy, both those guys had great spring trainings. Looking very prepared for the season. I think with Campy, it's he's starting to get a couple big hits and catching the ball well, and then he basically took has a issue with the left thumb, from a ligament standpoint. So he's on the IL right now. We're hoping it's going to be more of a sooner rather than later type thing, but I think it's we'll know more over the next few days with how he responds to treatment and some rest and everything like that. So I think he's a big part of things for us. So I think getting him back would be important. And then with Nola, obviously he struggled here so far offensively, and I think he can contribute a lot of different ways, behind the dish and catching, receiving, handling the staff. But again, I think he'll be the first to tell you that he's expecting himself to contribute at the bat, and so far, I think we know that he's what we saw in spring training, what we saw at different stretches last year, the postseason, he's capable of doing that. I think those guys are going to get the majority of the touches. Brett Sullivan just got called up, and he can swing the bat as well from the left side. But I think with Nolan Campy, anxious to get them going and get Campy back here at some point, hopefully sooner rather than later.
Everyone's excited to see Joe Musgrove back tomorrow and making his season debut, but also feels like it's going to lead to what may be your toughest decision of the first month of the season, and how to handle the starting rotation going forward. Don't have to make that call this second, so I won't ask you what it is, but how are you going to decide when you've got a 6-man rotation going right now, you're bringing a 7th guy in, and all of a sudden you get a bunch of off days on the schedule. You don't want your stars like you and Joe to go too far between starts either. What are the factors going into this decision coming up?
Yeah, no, I think that's been part of the discussion over the last few days, and knowing we've had this stretch. And I think the good part is, we've seen Ryan Weather step up and throw the ball well, and put himself in the conversation there to start, be a factor for us this year. But getting Joe back will be huge. Getting Darvish, going every 5 or 6 days is big. I think again we have a lot of off days coming up, I believe, in the schedule over the course of the next 3 or 4 weeks. So we want to make sure that that the starters are getting regular work, and I think we're looking at this over the 162 and over the long haul. Starting with the 6-man rotation, we also don't want to get to a spot where guys are too much time in between and they can't get into that good rhythm and tempo, and not as crispy because of it. So those are the things that we're looking at. I think we probably have the luxury to move a starter or two into the pen for the next few weeks, and I think just kind of weighing that out versus making sure that these guys have some extra rest, understanding it's a long season. And I think we'll start making some adjustments when Joe comes back here this weekend, and start letting the different guys on the team kind of feel where things are at. But for right now, it's more discussion, and I think we'll have some thoughts here over the next few days about what's the best way to go through the next 3 or 4 weeks. And I think that's the way you handle it. Like last year, there were points in time where we went with a 6-man. There were points in time where we shortened it up and wanted to get our top guys on the mound more often. I think we're constantly trying to look ahead and, hey, what's the best for this stretch, depending on the opponents, the schedule, what's the best for our staff. And, that's some of the decisions we'll have here over the course of the next few days.
How hard is that conversation to have? And who has it? Is it you? Is it Bob? Is it the two of you guys together? How does that work? I mean, if you had to go to a veteran like Michael Wacha or even Seth Lugo, the guys that you brought in to be starters, and really, let's be honest, they're back of the rotation guys that you want them to chew up some innings. How hard is that conversation to have with those guys and say, listen, this is where we need you now, and we're trying to win a World Series?
I mean, it'd take a lot. Obviously we have a group here from baseball operations, front office, R&D, scouting group, taking a lot of different opinions. But on this case, a lot of it comes down to Bob and Ruben and their feel for the staff and what they want to do. And then just being honest with the players. I think that's the biggest thing. Is sometimes guys may have different ideas or thoughts about role or their spot in the roster and how that comes up. And as long as we're just having honest conversations, that's what we try to do with each one of the guys. At times you can give them a heads up and give them hey, this is how things may play out over the next few weeks. Other times this is what's best for the ball club. And I think the biggest thing we have a lot of talented guys on our team and our roster and our pitching staff. But the one thing I think we've talked about, even before signing some of the guys this off season, is, we're here to win a championship, and that's first and foremost. And, we're going to make decisions we think are, hopefully best for the individual, but definitely best for the team. And I think we have a lot of guys that understand that's the number one thing. And we're going to do what we feel like is best there, and, be real clear with the players. And, again, like when you have a talented roster and a lot of good players, that creates competition and some tough conversations, but ultimately, it's all about what's best for the team. And, I think, Bob, myself, Ruben, others, depending on the player and the situation, will have those talks when needed.
So clearly today is not the day you need an 8th starter, but depth is always good. I'm just curious, how's Cole Hamels doing?
Yeah, honestly, I think I think for Cole, like probably the biggest thing we've talked about is, I think for him, getting, like probably more as we get into the summer months. Honestly, I think we're probably looking at like, hey, is he an option as we get into June? I think we feel like you're saying. I think, we have a lot of starting options to start the season. Had a couple guys step up here with Weathers and Groom, in spring training. And I think with Cole, it's just kind of like, hey, for him, he's obviously been one of the best pitchers in the game, and he's a guy that in spring training, showed, that he's still great delivery, still throws strikes, still has the changeup. But I think it's just more like, hey, like, is he an option for us as we get into, in my mind, kind of like into the summer months? Does he become an option here as we get into that portion of it? And nothing's really changed on that front. I think for him, it's that's what we're gearing towards, seeing if he could be an option for us as we go. And you're always trying to add to that starting pitching depth, and I think that was what we're trying to do with the Hamels signing.
Talking to AJ Preller, last one for me, AJ, back to the catching position. I know that there have been in your tenure a lot of guys you were really excited about. And, sometimes an organization, all the time, the organization knows more about the player than maybe the pundits do. When I see reports coming out about Ethan Salas from even the saltiest and disbelievers, Keith Law, about Ethan Salas and what he is capable of at 16 years old, how hard is it for you not to get way ahead of yourself? Obviously, you're not going to call him up now. That would be insanity. But
as Woods pointed out, he's not even allowed to work past 9 o'clock.
Yeah, I think there's an hour limit on what you can actually work him. That said, though, I mean, the kid, by all accounts, and again, like I said, from the saltiest disbelievers, it's just the reports on that dude have been glowing. And so, feasibly, what is the feasible expectation for that young man?
Yeah, I don't think we're not gonna put any limits on it. I think he's somebody that's opened a lot of eyes here. Obviously on the tryout scene, beforehand when you're recruiting him and trying to sign him, and then I think Chris Kemp, Trevor Shum, Cliff Derrick, so a lot of guys on the international side spend just a lot of time scouting him, recruiting him, talking to him about the Padres and what how he fits in with us, and then post signing. You never really know 100%. I think with a player like an Ethan Salas has a lot of talent, ability, and great makeup. You feel like fairly comfortable, obviously, that he's got a chance to be an impactful player. I think in the last couple months since we signed him, whether it's been at the mini camps, catching guys, maybe twice his age and looking really comfortable doing it. Impressing Bob Melvin and others that obviously have a lot of experience looking at catchers. And then spring training, and now into this extended spring period. He just keeps, again, like the things we put in front of him, the challenges we put in front of him, he keeps excelling. So that's really exciting. And where this goes. And, again, I think we signed him hoping he's a frontline player for the Padres for a long time. And, it's only been a month or two, and he hasn't gotten to an official minor league game yet. But I think he's making himself, by the way he goes about his business, his work ethic, and then obviously his talent on the field. He's putting himself in conversation to go out and play at a high level at a super young age. And, again, I think we never really focus on, hey, he needs to be here at this point in time with any of our prospects. It's more about, hey, is this process? This is what we're going to ask him to do. And if they check these boxes, we're not afraid to move guys. And I think Ethan's putting himself in that conversation with the way he's going about his business and, things he's doing in Arizona right now. So it's exciting, and hopefully he gets out to a full season affiliate here sooner rather than later. gets a chance to continue building, his experience and get more at bats, because he's a guy that's opened a lot of eyes early in the process.
So 20-year contract extension, or do you think he can get to 25 right now? Is that fair?
Yeah, and I think the thing is, at 16 years old, I think for him, he's somebody that is going to play for a long time.
I lied.
We'll see
I lied. I have one more question. I wanted to ask you about the report that came out over the weekend early in the week from Rob Manfred, talking about wanting to maybe limit some of the contract lengths and things like that, because
the AJ Preller rule,
dude. Well, it's like I said it. I said, man, these little Padres here have really turned baseball on its ear.
A hell of a lot more influential than I think we gave ourselves credit for.
You've got owners name checking our owner. I mean, it's wild what has really transpired, and I do feel like a lot of people are rooting against the Padres because of some of the things that we've done, and when you hear something like that, it's made its way basically all the way to the biggest office in the land of, we may need to take a closer look at what some of these guys do. And, Ben jokes about it, but do you feel that heat at all from the commissioner's office?
I mean, I think our, we've got enough focus on, trying to beat the Diamondbacks and the Dodgers and Giants and Rockies. So I think that's where my focus goes to. I think, again, you can just, I think it's a good thing in terms of, when there's attention placed on the organization. I think just again speaks to, what we're trying to build and what we're in the process of doing. And I think even like early part of the season, there's been, I think, 3 series in a row where the opposing teams, I think quotes where this felt like a playoff series. And I think that speaks to the fact that, when people come in, there's eyes on us and people looking at what we're doing and feeling like there's some respect there, hopefully, and wanting to play at a high level. And I think in terms of how that factors in with baseball and everything like that, I think baseball does a great job of putting in rules, and have done a lot of things the last few years to make the game more exciting in terms of contract length and everything like that. We'll focus more on the rotation and how we're gonna handle the next few weeks and this current road trip in Mexico City, and hopefully winning a game tonight against the D-backs. So
just silence notifications from the commissioner on your phone, like Paul does to me. You can there's a feature that you can use.
I loved that hustle from Nelly Cruz last night. I think he's got 10 more years in him. I'm thinking long-term deal right there as well. AJ, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Let's get back to your day. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
AJ Preller.